15 states just sued the federal government to eliminate suppressor and SBR restrictions overnight, not reduce the tax. Eliminate the entire NFA registration system. Summary judgment motions are already filed, which means a federal judge could strike down 90 years of restrictions within 60 days. Here's what's happening right now. Subscribe now to get the latest cases and updates. How a partial win became a constitutional weapon. 9 months ago, Congress passed the big beautiful bill, H.R. 1, and buried inside was something huge. The NFA tax stamp dropped from $200 to $0. Effective January 1st, you won't pay a dime for that stamp anymore. Now, if you've been watching this channel, you know we celebrated that win, but we also said it wasn't enough. What we actually wanted was the full Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act passed, which would have ripped suppressors and short-barreled rifles out of the NFA completely. Not just the tax, the registration, the tracking, the government database, the wait times, all of it gone. But rhinos in Congress wouldn't push it. They talked tough on the Second Amendment and then folded when it mattered. They also refused to remove the Senate parliamentarian who killed the stronger language we needed. So yeah, we got a partial win, but everyone in the gun rights community knew this fight wasn't over. Here's what nobody saw coming though. That $0 tax just created the biggest constitutional vulnerability the NFA has ever had, and smart legal teams immediately recognized it. They saw the opening and they're ramming through it right now with everything they've got. They're already trying to destroy this win, and the anti-gun politicians, they're panicking. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut saw what was coming and immediately introduced an amendment to the military spending bill that would jack the NFA tax from $200 all the way up to $4,795 per stamp. Let that sink in. $5,000 just to exercise a constitutional right. That's not regulation. That's wealth-based disarmament. They want to make sure only rich people can own suppressors and SBRs while everyone else gets priced out. But here's what they didn't count on. 15 states plus major gun groups join forces. Here's where it gets serious. Gun Owners of America, Firearms Policy Coalition, Silencer Shop, Palmetto State Armory, and Silencer Central just filed a joint federal lawsuit against the ATF. But it's not just gun rights groups anymore. 15 states have joined as named plaintiffs. Texas, Alaska, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming are all putting their state sovereignty on the line and telling the federal government these restrictions are unconstitutional and need to end immediately. Think about what that means. 15 state attorneys general looked at this case and said, "We're in." That's not symbolic. That's serious legal firepower backing this challenge. And the strategy they're using is brilliant because it attacks the NFA at its constitutional foundation. They filed a motion for summary judgment, which means they're asking the federal court to decide this now without dragging it through years of trials. And their legal argument is airtight. Here's what they're saying, and I'm pulling this straight from the actual court filing. Quote, enacted in 1934, the National Firearms Act, the NFA, is premised on Congress's taxing powers. The act imposed a $200 tax on the manufacturer and transfer of particular classes of firearms. The NFA's authors left no doubt that the NFA was an exercise of the taxing power and that the Supreme Court upheld it on that basis. This has been the uncontroversial understanding of the courts and commenters for nearly half a century. So for 90 years, the constitutional justification for the NFA has been Congress's power to tax under Article 1. Courts never questioned it because the tax was always there. But now watch what happens next. Quote, but the NFA no longer imposes any tax on the vast majority of firearms it purports to regulate. That's because of the $0 tax change in the big beautiful bill. Quote, that means that the constitutional foundation on which the NFA rested has dissolved and the NFA cannot be upheld under any other Article 1 power. With respect to the untaxed firearms, the act is now unconstitutional. Read that again. The constitutional foundation has dissolved. They're not arguing the NFA violates the Second Amendment, though they make that argument too. They're saying Congress never had the authority to create this registration system in the first place, except as a tax. And now that the tax is gone, the entire legal justification collapses. The government can't regulate suppressors and SBRs under the Commerce Clause. They can't regulate them under any other enumerated power. The only reason the NFA survived constitutional challenges for 90 years was because it operated as a tax scheme, and that's gone now. So what are they asking the court to do? Two things. First, declare that the NFA's registration and transfer requirements for suppressors and short-barreled rifles exceed Congress's constitutional authority. Second, issue an injunction prohibiting the ATF, its agents, and any other federal employees from enforcing these restrictions. If they win, it's over. No more registration, no more tax stamps even at $0, no more notifying the government when you cross state lines. The entire NFA framework for suppressors and SBRS gets struck down nationwide. Why this won't take years to resolve. Now here's why the timeline matters. Both sides just asked the federal court to skip normal trial procedures and go straight to cross motions for summary judgment. That means both the plaintiffs and the government are saying, we don't need a trial. The legal questions can be decided now. The court granted that request and set an aggressive schedule. Plaintiffs have to file their full motion for summary judgment by October 7th, 2025. That's weeks away. Then the ATF has until November 6th to file their opposition and their own cross motion. So within 60 days, all the major legal arguments will be on the table, and a federal judge will have everything needed to make a decision. This isn't going to take years. We could see a ruling that fundamentally changes federal gun law before the end of this year. That's how fast this is moving. And if the plaintiffs win at the district court level, the government will appeal, which means this could land at the Supreme Court within the next 18 months. The same Supreme Court that gave us Bruen. The one question everyone's asking. So what does this actually mean for you as a gun owner? The plaintiffs are betting everything on a simple constitutional argument. Congress created the NFA under its taxing power. No tax means no constitutional authority. Period. The registration system, the transfer requirements, the travel notifications, none of it can survive without the tax justification. And they're also arguing it fails Second Amendment scrutiny under Bruen. But the tax argument is even stronger because it doesn't require the court to do a Second Amendment analysis at all. It's pure Article 1 enumerated powers. Now here's the part that has everyone watching closely. We don't know yet how the Trump ATF will respond. They could take a pro-gun position that leads to a fast win. They could fight to defend the NFA's remaining restrictions. Or they could stake out some middle ground. The Trump DOJ has been inconsistent across different cases. Sometimes they take strong Second Amendment positions. Other times they defend existing federal gun laws, even when those laws have constitutional problems. Look at what happened in the Patterson case in the Fifth Circuit. The Trump DOJ filed a brief saying, suppressors are protected arms under the Second Amendment. That's good. But then they argued the NFA restrictions are still constitutional because the system operates as a shall-issue permit, which they claim is allowed under the Supreme Court's Bruen decision. So they admitted the Second Amendment protects suppressors, but still defended keeping them regulated. That kind of mixed position makes it hard to predict where they'll land on this $0 tax argument. But here's what we know for sure. The NFA battle is exploding on multiple fronts right now. You've got this lawsuit in federal district court with 15 states backing it. You've got Democrats in Congress trying to raise the tax to almost $5,000. You've got Representative Clyde introducing legislation to remove the restrictions through the normal legislative process. There are cases moving through federal appeals courts. And there are 2 cases at the Supreme Court right now dealing with SBR issues. It's all happening simultaneously, and that's actually good for us. Multiple pressure points mean multiple chances to win. If this lawsuit succeeds, it's a total victory. If it fails, but the Supreme Court takes one of the pending cases, we get another shot. If Congress acts first, even better. The more fronts this fight happens on, the better our odds. What we really need to watch in the next few weeks is the government's actual response brief. Are they going to defend the NFA as still valid despite the $0 tax? Are they going to argue suppressors aren't protected arms? Are they going to claim some other Article 1 power justifies these restrictions? The position they take will tell us everything about where this administration actually stands when it counts. Conclusion. So that's where we are. The Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act didn't fully pass in the big beautiful bill, But the $0 tax change created an opening that nobody saw coming. And now the entire constitutional foundation of the NFA is under attack in federal court. 15 states are standing up. Major gun rights organizations are putting everything behind this fight. And the legal arguments are strong enough that both sides want to settle this with summary judgment, instead of dragging it out for years. As this case develops over the next couple months, I'll be keeping you updated with every major filing and court decision. If you want those updates and you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now. Also check out armscholar.com for more resources and analysis. Thank you for supporting the channel and the Second Amendment.